Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Will Dennis. I'm lucky enough to be a 12th grade theology teacher at an amazing place called Villa Joseph Marie High School. And in addition to that, I also own my own improv studio, comedic improv. So improv and theology, or as I like to call it, surf and turf, right? Not two things that we typically see come together, but what I want to talk to you about today is the opportunity that exists in a classroom to bring improvisation into that classroom and some of the benefits or fruits that we can experience if we're willing to embrace 5 tenets that we typically use, bring those into the classroom, both as sort of environment building, but also as means of delivering curriculum and content and a focus on social and emotional learning. So as we journey through here, I'm going to break open these 5 tenets for you so that you can better understand them. And then you'll have an opportunity to see some of the games that we use in action so that you can understand that you can take these right into your classroom, right? By the end of our time together, my hope is that you can all leave here with tools that you could implement in 5 minutes if you needed to. If you had a class coming up after this, you could take these tools, take these 5 ideas and some games and implement them. One of the things we like to start with is a redefining of improv. So a lot of times people will hear improv and their instinct is to sort of dig a hole somewhere and hide in it for the rest of their life, or run for the doors, or starting to sweat down your back and you feel nauseous. Nobody likes this notion of, hey, I'm going to throw you on the spot in front of a group of people and you better perform. So we try to redefine what improv actually is. It's not about being funny. It's not about being spontaneous. It's not about being quick. It's not about being witty. So the way that we like to talk about improv and define it is agreeing to create something together that never existed before. And they are the only expectations that exist for improvisation. All we need to do is to agree as a group, as a community, that we are going to create something that never existed before. Now, the way that we're going to create those things is through these 5 tenets of improvisation. So the first tenet we're going to talk about is this idea called yes and. This is the golden rule of improv. So if you run into anyone on the street that has taken an improv class, from Philadelphia to Los Angeles to Dubuque, you should be able to say to them, what is the first rule of improv? And they should respond, yes and. And what yes and is really about is about acceptance and contribution or participation. So in order for anything else to work in improv, we first need to be willing to accept one another's ideas and accept one another as human beings, right? We need to recognize the dignity in each human being, and we need to be willing to accept the ideas that other people bring to the table. You don't have to agree with those ideas, but you need to accept them in a way that they are worthy to be built upon, and that's where the end comes in. It is not just yes. The first rule is not just yes. It is yes and, which means there is a requirement for our participation. So we need to accept ideas in such a way that we are then willing to contribute our own ideas in order to make them stronger and stronger and stronger. With the goal being that as a group, as a pair, as a class, we create things, and then when we look back, we have no idea whose idea that was. There is no longer singular ownership, but there's collective ownership amongst a class or a community. So that's that first idea, is this notion of yes and. The second idea we talk about, the second tenet, is give yourself up for the good of the team. So this is usually where people are like, well, wait a second, Will, that's a little too kumbaya for my liking. And I get that, right? It's like, oh, feel good, happy, but is it realistic and practical? Well, the first thing is, what we're really talking about is selflessness. And there should be no sort of hesitancy as far as the rewards that come with selflessness. We see this as educators. We see this in faith. So we understand the value of selflessness, that notion of giving ourselves up for somebody else. Now, what we do with this one is we actually get the benefit from this. Because in my experience, the number one roadblock to creation, creativity, success, progress, is judgment, right? It's a fear of judgment from others, but more importantly, it's self-judgment. So some of you out there are probably thinking to yourself, well, how do I experience that? I think I believe that, but how do I experience that? I'll tell you some of the ways that I see it. In fact, the most specific way I see it in my students is qualifying questions. This is probably dumb, but. This is probably wrong, but. I know this is stupid, but. Right? We are already judging ourselves before we even ask a question. I myself judge myself probably, 30 times before I even leave my house in the morning. And that gets in the way of my ability to create, to be creative, to succeed, to offer progress. So what's great about this tenet is if we agree to this, that, all right, my job today is to make all of you look amazing. That's my only job, is to make all of you look amazing. So it might just be one other person, it might be a group of people, but I've agreed that my job is to make you look phenomenal. Well, what happens as a result of that is I'm not thinking about my insecurities, at least for the time being. I mean, when I leave here, yes, they're going to come crashing back into my face. They're unavoidable in that sense. But while I'm improvising, while I'm in this environment, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about how bushy my eyebrows are. I'm not thinking about my COVID haircut. I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm 5'5" if I stand up straight on a good day. I'm not thinking about the weight I gained over the pandemic. All I'm thinking about is making you look good, making you look good, making you look good, making you look good. And as a result, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people whose number one job is to make me look good. So I don't have to think about my insecurities if I put all of my energy into making my teammates look sensational. So that's the second one. Third one we're going to talk about is a concept called make statements. So we used to talk about this, and we still do it in sort of just performance improv circles, as avoid questions. Well, good luck doing that in a classroom, right? Questions are imperative. They're an essential component of learning. Inquiry, 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 right? It's what we're all seeking. Inquiry that can lead to mastery, that can lead to agency. So we can't take questions out. We wouldn't want to. If we did, we would be ineffective as educators. But what we can do is start encouraging students that if you can phrase a question as a statement, do so. Because what happens is when you make a statement, you are making an offer to another person or a group of people. When you ask a question, you are begging something from another person or from a group of people. So if you have a question that is about a conviction that you have come to, phrase it as a statement. Make a claim one way or another. If you're standing on opposite sides of a point and you've reached a claim, make that claim. Do not ask a question, or do not hide that claim within a question. Because what ends up being is the difference between this, right? If I were to say to you, right? If I were to say to you, here, what is this? Well, I put the onus entirely on you. I've put that question on you, and now you start to sweat, you start to panic, because you go, I didn't realize I was going to be asked. I have no idea, right? Exactly. As opposed to if I said to you, I came up and I said, here, I want you to have this apple. At the very least, you know you have an apple, right? Now, what you do with that apple is entirely up to you. You're in a position to yes and. You're in a position to accept that apple and then decide what you're going to do with it. So what are you going to do? I don't know. You might slice it up. You might make applesauce. You might throw it back at me. Either way, that is up to you now. You are in that position to yes and an offer that's been made. And so that's why we try to make statements. This can be incredibly helpful in discussion. This can be incredibly helpful in brainstorming, but it is not something that needs to take over your entire classroom. You still need to create space for questions based on inquiry and a desire to learn. So the fourth one, probably my favorite. We don't have any favorites. It's like students and children, but let's be honest, this one's my favorite, is this notion that mistakes are fumbles, which are opportunities. This is tough, right? It's so easy to talk about this. It's like, oh, we learn from our mistakes. And meanwhile, here's your test back that lists all of your mistakes, all right? So this is a tough one to back up a little bit. But the reason I love this is because we remove the word mistakes. First of all, that has a connotation in this world, especially with students. So instead of talking about these things in terms of mistakes, we talk about them in terms of fumbles. Why do we do that? Well, because I am stealing this directly from Improv Olympic in Chicago. I had a chance to go out there and study, and this was one of my biggest takeaways from a workshop I did, was calling things fumbles instead of mistakes. And the reason is the football analogy. So for those of you who are fans of football, you've probably seen a fumble. You've probably seen a fumble in a football game. Now, has anyone seen a fumble where the reaction of everyone on the field was, right? No, of course not. Has anyone seen a fumble where the reaction of everyone on the field was, just don't pay attention to it. Don't look, it'll go away on its own. It'll go away. No. What happens? What happens when somebody fumbles? Yes, everyone pounces. Everyone sees that as an opportunity. So they pounce in order to get the ball back, to advance the ball, or to take possession from the other team. That is an opportunity for every single person on that field, and that's what fumbles become. So we see this in improv when we sort of put on its feet constantly. The best moments are the moments that result from a fumble, right? Improv itself, there's no plan, right? Nothing goes according to plan. So everything is ultimately a result of a fumble. But even I say this to students a lot, think of like if you're wasting 13 hours of your life on IMDb instead of doing your chemistry homework, and you're going through the trivia section of your favorite movie or TV show, there's a pretty good chance you're going to discover that your favorite moment from that movie was not supposed to happen. It was a mistake. It was ad-lib. It was improvised. Because someone made a mistake. Someone behind the camera was smart enough to keep rolling. And they took this mistake, fumble, and turned it into an iconic moment that exists, right? Without going into detail, if I said When Harry Met Sally, you would all probably think of the same moment in that movie. If you know that movie and love it as much as I do, that moment was completely improvised. Not supposed to happen. And yet it is one of the most iconic moments of film. So that's our fourth one. Mistakes are fumbles, which are opportunities. Fifth one, this is a newer one, I absolutely love it, especially for education. Bring a brick. Okay, to continue that phrase, we would say, bring a brick, we will build the cathedral together. And what this one does is it gives permission for our students to show up each day with just who they are, just what they have to offer, and without the pressure of feeling like they need to have it all figured out. So each day they walk into a classroom, there is no expectation that they have all of the answers, they have it all figured out, they know how today's going to go, they know where they're going to go to college, what they're going to study, who they're going to marry, what their career is going to be, and, so on and so forth. There is no expectation or pressure to have the answers or to have it figured out. The only expectation is to show up as you are, who you are, with what you have to offer that day. This one has been, from a community standpoint, a game changer for us in the classroom. I was lucky enough to have a student use that concept in a college essay, specifically for a scholarship to a school which I'm not going to name. And the results, because of her brilliance and her embracing of this notion and her interview skills and everything else, got her a full ride to that college. For me, it was one of the most proud moments of being an educator, was being able to witness that and to see someone latch onto that and then make it even better than I ever could have made it. So if you take nothing else away from today, I hope you take that notion of the beauty that can come if we remove that pressure and expectation from our students to have it all figured out. I find myself teaching in a single sex, all girls, private, college prep, Catholic school. If any of you had a chance to listen to the NCAA podcast I was on, I translate that into competitive, right? So that is what we are fighting against, is constant competition. So to take that pressure away of having to have things figured out, I think is a real gift that we can offer our students. So I want to thank you for listening to me today. I want to thank you for your open-mindedness to some of these tenets. As you explore the rest of this workshop, you're going to get a chance to see some of them in action so that you can take them back into your own classroom. Various different activities or games that you can slowly incorporate and not feel like you need to be an expert in improv to be able to do this. Anyone can do this. Anyone can do this. So one of the first exercises that we're going to do is I'm actually going to utilize everyone in the room right now so that we can do this together and then sort of see where it takes us. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I am a teacher and a small business owner, which is really just code for being poor. So I have 2 kids, got to pay the bills, so I have to take on a number of other jobs. We're all familiar with this from an educational standpoint, right? So I have 3 other jobs, and they're pretty cool. And I'm going to ask your help with some of those jobs because you wouldn't believe this. But as I was walking in today, all 3 of these jobs called and asked something of me. So I'm hoping you might be able to help me out. You are already in pairs, which is awesome. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to just find a space in the room and do me a favor. My first job is that I develop apps for Apple. And like I mentioned, they called this morning and they're really in a bind. Google Play is sort of dominating the marketplace right now, so they need some new apps. And they called me, they're like, Will, can you do this for us? I said, oh gosh, I could, but I'm on my way into a workshop with about 100 of the most creative people that I've never met before. And they're like, well, that's okay. Maybe you could use them. I was like, great idea, Apple folks. I said, any rules, anything I should know about for them to develop this app? And they said, well, a couple things. Have them in pairs and have them go back and forth with ideas, but everything after the first idea needs to begin with the word no. Everything after the first idea needs to begin with the word no. So it might sound something like, oh, it should be a dog walking app. No, it should be an ice cream flavors app. No, it should be get your homework done app, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Great. Well, you only have 1 minute to do it starting now, so go. Okay, good. All right, that's about time. Awesome. Any finished ideas? No. Okay, all right. Well, good news, bad news. I have other jobs. That's the good news. Bad news is just got fired from Apple, but that's okay. So one of my next job, which I absolutely love, is I come up with summer blockbuster ideas for Sony Pictures. And 'tis the season. We're even a little behind at this point. And they call me and they're like, Will, we are so desperate. We need some summer blockbuster ideas. I was like, I'm on this. When should I do it? They're like, right now. I was like, I'm actually on my way into a workshop with 100 of the most creative people I've never met before. Do you think I could use them? They're like, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I was like, well, that's great because they're already in pairs from Apple's thing. So can I just keep them in pairs? They're like, absolutely. I was like, any rules or anything? They said, well, go back and forth and have the second person start with the first idea. And then everything after the first idea should begin with the phrase, yes, but. Yes, but. Yes, but? Yes, but. For instance, it might be, oh, our movie should star Matt Damon. Yes, but not Ben Affleck. Well, yes, but they're kind of a package deal. Yes, but Ben's a terrible actor. And so on and so forth, right? Does that all make sense? Awesome. You have a minute starting now. Go. Okay, any ideas there? We did a little bit better? Okay, nice. Still resistance. Okay. The way I like to talk about yes, but is as a Trojan horse, right? It is a no hidden within a yes. So a lot of times we see this in a workplace as sort of a manipulation tactic, a way to get someone to believe they're being listened to or accepted while also rejecting their ideas at the same time. So good, I'm glad we had an experience similar to that. Now the final job I had, I hope I keep that one with Sony. We have enough that we can probably go on. Final job I have is probably my favorite. I build roller coasters for Six Flags. which is awesome. And Six Flags is looking for some new roller coasters, right? It's like Dorney is challenging them, Hershey, there's always Disney. So they were like, Will, we need help. I was like, don't even worry about it. I got you, because I'm headed into a workshop with 100 of the most creative people I've never met before. You're welcome, by the way. I've been flattering you all day. So here's the idea. You're going to build a roller coaster, okay? Same rules. You're going to go back and forth, but everything begins with the phrase yes and. Everything begins with the phrase yes and. Make sense? All right, you only have 45 seconds this time. Go. So as we take a moment to digest that, I hope you realize that none of these jobs are real jobs of mine, as interesting as some of them sound, but I put on that persona, and that's what I would encourage you to do if you're looking to use this in your classroom to get that instant buy-in, is find a way to sort of add that shtick, but do it in such a way that is relatable, and then walk the students through those 3 rounds. So another option for you to do is after each round, sort of stop and digest it fully together. Say, okay, why weren't we as successful? What did it feel like to have every idea be met with the word no? Did you end up with 20 first ideas instead of a fully fleshed out idea? And then to explore it with the other rounds as well, and take the time with yes and to point out that every roller coaster that has been created is rideable. Like we would all want to ride it. As ridiculous or as silly as they are, we want to ride it. And in addition to that, no one stops to say, this is too silly. Well, this is impossible, right? So it opens up those portals of creativity. And that's really what you want your students to cling to. This idea of how creative I can be with another person if I know that I'm going to be accepted. So lean into that in that feedback as well. So yeah, let's look at some games, and then we can do some more debriefing after that. The first game we're going to take a look at is a game called Dr. Know-It-All. And this is certainly a favorite of mine. So the way that this game works is that Dr. Know-It-All is going to be an expert in something that people aren't typically an expert in. So instead of something like social studies or geometry, we might have Dr. Know-It-All who's an expert in fried pickles or polka dots, or in the example you're about to see, hamburgers. That suggestion will come from the rest of the class, and then 3 students will volunteer to play Dr. Know-It-All, and will stand sort of shoulder to shoulder facing the class, and they are being interviewed as an expert on a talk show. The host should be played by the teacher, at least for the first few iterations of this game. Now, here's the catch. Though there are 3 people playing this game, Dr. Know-It-All is one person. So as such, we ask Dr. Know-It-All to respond to each question, 1 word, 1 person at a time. So that'll make a little bit more sense after you watch this example coming right up. Good. Welcome back to Dr. Know-It-All. We're so excited to have everyone here with us. And today, of course, we have the good doctor who's an expert in hamburgers. Now, doctor, before we begin, could you just introduce yourself by your full name?
Bob the Great.
Bob the Great. We're so excited. In addition to being a hamburger expert, you, of course, are also a conqueror, which is nice. Bob the Great. So, doctor, you are an expert in hamburgers. How did you first fall in love with the hamburger?
Hamburgers are simply amazing. And when I see hamburgers, I feel jazzy.
Wow, good. So you see hamburgers and you feel jazzy. What is it about the hamburger that leads to such jazziness for you?
The bun and the lettuce just taste beautiful.
Wow, okay, so it's not even the patty itself. For you, it's really about the bun and then specifically the lettuce. Now, doctor, is there a certain type of lettuce you recommend for hamburgers?
Romaine, for sure.
Nice, romaine for sure, right? That's awesome, so it's good to know. Now, let me ask you this question. A lot of people like to put different things on their hamburgers. Some people are just ketchup, some are ketchup, mayo, mustard. What do you recommend to be the best combination of condiment for a hamburger?
Mayo and mustard and Ketchup.
Nice. So throw all three of them on there. That's awesome. Now, Doctor, we have with us in our studio audience hamburger enthusiasts from all over the world, and they're dying to ask you some questions. So we're just going to go into the audience and see if anyone has a question for Dr. Know-It-All. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
What are your opinions on cheeseburgers?
Great question. We've talked about hamburgers. Is a cheeseburger equivalent to a hamburger?
Gross.
No. Cheeseburgers are gross. Leave the cheese at home. Other questions? Yes.
Bacon on hamburgers.
What about bacon on a hamburger?
Delectable.
Good. Yes, that is delectable. Any other questions? Any other questions for Bob the Great? Yes, follow-up question.
What is your favorite kind of hamburger bun?
Great question. You highlighted the bun earlier. What is the best bun to have a hamburger on?
My favorite
Bun.
would
B. Brioche.
Oh, a nice brioche. Nice. Very bougie, Doctor. Very bougie. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
How do you cook the burger?
How do you cook the burger?
Medium.
Yeah, that's how I like my burger too, right? Somewhere in the middle. A little bit of contentment there. Not too well done, not too rare. Yes?
Thoughts on turkey burgers instead of beef burgers?
Good question. Turkey burger versus beef burger.
Beef. Fur. Sure.
And that's our time. Thank you so much, Doctor. A couple brief things that I just want to point out from that round. I hope you noticed that at one point one of the students said 2 words instead of 1. And more important than that, I hope you noticed that no one panicked. Nothing came to a screeching halt. No one ridiculed her for saying 2 words instead of 1, even though the rules are 1. And that is the idea of this game and the idea of improv, right? So another thing I want to point out about this game and all of the games is that the beauty of this is everyone in the classroom is participating, not just the 3 students who volunteered. So everyone is a member of the studio audience, and they're asking questions, they're offering feedback, everyone is actively participating. So you'll have those students who, for them, getting up in front of the class is not something that they're going to be doing, at least not the first couple of times, because that creates a sense of anxiety. But there's an opportunity to participate still and to feel like you're a part of this game. So though we take volunteers to be sure, we treat each game as if every single person in the class is playing that game. So let's dive in and we'll look at another example of a different game. All right, so we're going to play a game called Late for Class. And the way that this game is going to work, Claire, who we've already sent out of the classroom, is late to class. She's going to have to come in and she's going to have to explain 2 things: why she's late and how she ultimately got to school to her teacher, Anna, right? The catch is Claire has no idea why she's late. She has no idea how she got to school. We're going to decide that in a second. The only way she'll be able to get that information is from her classmates, Marie and Alex, who will be behind the teacher's back trying to send clues however they can. At any point, the teacher can turn around and try to catch that, right? So that's the general idea. What I need from all of you is a suggestion of why Claire might be late. And again, not typical, she slept through her alarm, but more sort of silly things like, right, she was attacked by kangaroos or something like that. Any suggestions? Any suggestions of why Claire might be late for class?
She had an allergic reaction and her throat closed up.
Where's your word? It's oddly specific.
Chewed through her tires and all the air was out.
A squirrel chewed through her tires? Okay, all right. We'll save the allergic reaction for another time. A squirrel chewed through her tires. All 4 tires. And how did she ultimately get to work then? Completely unrelated to the squirrel.
Oh, unrelated to the squirrel?
Yeah.
Oh, he was going to be helpful.
Oh.
How did she get?
We'll find out the rest of the story of the helpful squirrel later.
A clown gave her a
Clown car. Clown car. So she got to school in a clown car, okay? So a squirrel moved through her tires. She got to school in a clown car. Remember, we help via snaps or golf claps. Claire, the teacher is not happy.
I'm so sorry I'm late.
Why are you late to class?
I was driving a mouse. Wheels. I was debating whether a mouse chewed through my wheels.
I
A mouse.
What are you guys doing?
Your wheel on your chair is broken, and I think I have to fix it, so I can just do that while you're yelling at Claire. She's got it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Because I was crawling like a mouse. I am a mouse. I was a mouse. A mouse. No. A rat. A hamster, a guinea pig. A bird.
What are you guys up to?
I have a knee problem.
Yeah.
And it's really bad right now. I just need a minute on the floor. A weasel?
No. I was driving when a wheel. And it was bitten by a skunk, a raccoon, a squirrel. Actually, my wheel was bitten by a squirrel.
Yeah, good. Close enough.
All four. That was quick. How'd you get here?
I was riding a horse. I was playing Fortnite. I'm a clown.
What are you guys up to?
I was just dancing, doing my TikTok dancing. My nose really itches. I'm sorry.
I was driving in a clown car.
Woo! Nice job. There are about 1,000 improv games that exist out there. As far as sort of the cycle of games that I use in my class, there's about 10 to 15. So if you're interested and if you want more resources, if you want more games, once again, you can hop on over to that website using the QR code that is on your screen, or you can follow that link that is up there as well. Just copy and paste that into a browser and it'll take you and you'll be able to have access to some supplemental resources, some additional games, things like that. I'm always available as a resource if you need anything at all. My contact information is up on the screen for you now. You can contact me through either one of those, right? Through school or through Unscripted Productions. I'm happy to help you out however I can. So that's about it. So I'm going to bid you farewell, and I am going to thank you once again, and I'm going to leave you with a few quick student testimonials so that you can see the impact that this has on the other end. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day, everyone.
In a classroom environment that can often be filled with stress, filled with pressure, make students feel like they have to be everything and do everything, the idea of improv with Bring a Brick helps people just understand that they don't have to do everything. They can rely on others. They can work together to create something that's bigger than what one single person could bring to the table. I think that having improv in a classroom shows students that they're more than a number, they're more than what they can do on just a basic test or academic assessment. I think it allows people to understand that everyone has different strengths, everyone has something different that makes them special, and improv allows them to feel like whatever their talent is, it can be valued in a classroom.
It's definitely carried over into like class discussions and stuff like that, because like I'm able to like make a fool of not like a fool of myself, but like be like goofy with my friends in class, and like that helps me be able to talk about like other stuff in class as well, like serious topics. So the confidence definitely carries over. Like I know that like some people who like feel like they're not as smart as other people, and like with like the leveling like the playing field, it's just like everybody's doing the same thing, and like this, it's not like for like a grade or anything, so it's kind of like a chance to just like be yourself and like let loose, like in the midst of like all like the stressful environment of like getting that A on that test or getting 100 on that assignment that you had to do. So it's a nice like break in a way. Well, for going into college, like it'll obviously be a new way to start fresh, but it'll also help me learn like to not fully judge myself for not being as good as another person or not as smart as another person, because there will always be someone who's like smarter than you or better at you than something. So it'll definitely help me personally with like not judging myself as harshly as I used to.
A field hockey captain, and when girls on the team come to me feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed that they have too much to do, they feel like they need to do everything on the field, I tell them it's okay, just bring a brick, just do one thing that you can do and rely on your teammates to do the rest. Well, I feel like life is just a series of improving. I mean, you just have to like think on your feet, be comfortable in new environments around new people, and I think all the ideas and like principles of improv can just carry over, and by practicing those, like even in simple like fun games with classmates in a classroom, like I think it just helps people be confident in their abilities to just thrive in whatever situation or obstacle might be thrown at them.